All right, hello everybody. We are back here for episode 8 recap. It's been fun the last few weeks when we've had some incredible outcomes, tribal councils, and I think this was a really fun episode. But I think I feel sympathy for a lot of people tonight who are sad, who are mournful, who are even angry. So we'll discuss all of that, and we'll see how the panel here feels about that tonight. We have a fun one for you. There was drama in the episode. There was drama in the panel figuring it out. So it's just all crazy tonight here as I try to figure it out and get it going. But we're here. We're ready to go. We be divulging shit tonight. Is that the motto?
I think it is now.
Yeah. I wanted to make that it. Does that work? I just came up with that. So I'll be following the chat and keeping things in mind. But let's just get to it. Let me introduce the panel for tonight. We have 4 people. No theme or anything like that, but some people that I've been excited to talk to for the whole season. First, on the left, we've got Bailey. You may know him from Survivor Reelfoot and from the general internet presence. Bailey, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I would like to say that when me and Chris played an online game together, he was my bitch. So,
wow. Throwback. I remember that game, actually. The John Doe's was the alliance.
John Doe's, yes. And he was Eric and I was Chris Lecompt.
Wow. So people, would they hate both of you or would they just hate? Well, what is this going on? Oh, a fan. I thought that was a picture of someone.
I bought it for Pride today and now it's just my obsession. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Bailey, to talk about it. Always fun to hear your thoughts. We've been trying to do this for a while, so glad it worked out. Then next up, we have Rachel, who is from the Survivor Scholars YouTube podcast. Is podcast the right word for a YouTube show, YouTube series?
I guess. I don't know. I usually just call it either, but yeah, I'm super excited. I'm actually from Maryland, and the other girl on the podcast is from UMBC. So if you're from the area, then we have some Maryland people.
Finally, we've been waiting on it. Also, go Retrievers, so...
True. Alyssa would like that, and she's the other girl on our show.
Yeah, well, I've been able to watch. I almost went on your show, and then I flaked because I'm the absolute worst. But really, really glad to have you on here. And if you guys are looking for some Survivor recaps, then you should definitely check them out on YouTube. I know you guys have been going at it for years, right?
Yeah, I think since like junior year of high school, now we're going to be juniors in college. So we're doing Survivor recaps, and then we're also doing DIY challenges. So a ton of fun, and I'm super excited to talk not Survivor, but Survivor Maryland.
There you go. It's all Survivor in the end.
Yeah.
DIY challenges is cool too. I'm going to have to check those out. I currently watch approximately like 2 combined TV shows and YouTube series based on my schedule right now. But whatever. Soon we'll be there. All right. Let's move on to Ryan Borden. Ryan, you were supposed to be here with your compatriot, Will from America. I was going to say Will from Maryland, but he's not even here. So
Maryland's from America. It's close enough.
Yeah. But Ryan, you decided we almost were going to save you for later on, and you were so inspired to talk about tonight's episode that you had to come on, I heard.
It's like I said, I've got the flag back here. It's only fitting that I'm here for the champion of Survivor Maryland from Colorado to go home. I needed to be the one to talk.
I'm sure everybody recognized that flag right away.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not quite as iconic as the Maryland flag. I'm sorry.
No, it's not, but it does the job tonight, I think.
Well, thank you for coming on. Excited to talk to you. And I mean, let's be real. Not only do we have a female representation tonight, but Colorado representation is really the way to go about it. So I'm glad we have that. And then we've got William. Do you go by Will? I don't even know.
I go by Will, William, whatever you want.
All right. Well, I had the pleasure of meeting you in Boston, and it was a lot of fun to talk to you. And now you're here on the podcast. What a rise.
Yeah, this is I met the right people in Boston, so that worked out.
That's right. Networking. That's what the Hab events are, right? It's just networking.
It's just networking.
Yeah. Well, really excited to talk to everybody. This is going to be a challenge to see if I can make it through. Behind the scenes, I was editing the episode until 3 a.m. last night because my computer kept crashing every time it loaded. And then I had to wake up at 5 and 6 and 7 to get it to reload again. And then it was just a mess. And I did work today too. But I'm going to try to keep this not super long and drawn out today, but I do think we have a lot to talk about both with this episode and with the merge going forward. So we'll dive into that. Right before we do, thanks to everybody, as always, for your feedback and your comments. Some of them, I get very anxious before episodes like these. Like, when I know the person going home is a fan favorite, and I certainly love Sabrina, as I think everybody saw from the last words that I had with her. And I'm just as sad as you are. It sucks, but it's also sucky to lose a lot of these people, and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a wild ride, and we're pretty deep into this game. So, the one thing I'll say, and we'll get into this, is I'm glad Sabrina really had a chance to play this time, especially into the swap, and we'll talk about all that. But thanks again, as always. As I said in the episode, I will be taking a break next week. I just need it, and I won't even be around much for most of the next week. But we have a lot of time to digest and talk about things coming up for a double merge episode in 2 weeks, so that'll be fun. In the meantime, let's talk about tonight's episode. So all of you guys, let's just start off with reactions to the episode, and I imagine this may take a turn in kind of eulogy for Sabrina. So start with you. What were your immediate reactions?
So I was pretty much enjoying the entire episode throughout. The thing that I love about Survivor Maryland is it's a Survivor season, but it almost shoots like a season of The Office at the same time. So it's just kind of like you get a fun comedic aspect that comes along with the strategicness of the game. There was just a lot of fun moments this episode, just involving Sabrina and Shubal trying to sell this lie that, we're not partners, we just hooked up. And it was Shubal's swan song to save his one-night stand from elimination. It was just an incredible storyline, and just how you edited it all together to be like him telling 6 people at once was just the icing on top of that cake.
Yeah, well, certainly Sabrina has been the star of the last 2 weeks, really. And I mean, I've said this from the premiere recap that I was so excited when she pulled out his name. I was like, this is a really fun pairing. I did not expect it to go like this and to be this epic. I mean, I'm kind of offended you said one night stand, because I think there was something more special there. But
that's what as. I want them to be 3 years deep into a relationship, Austin. Can you give me that?
They sat in a car for almost 2 hours. They deserve it.
Yeah, it was almost 3 years in that car conversation. I think they might still be there. But all right, let's move on to Rachel. Rachel, what were your immediate takeaways from the episode?
No, yeah, I 100% agree. It was such an interesting episode. I think we saw a lot that will set us up like really, really well for the merge. I'm glad Shubal didn't give the idol to Sabrina this episode. And like you all said last week about Senti having that like 2-week arc, I think this was Sabrina's 2-week arc. And I think Shubal said it himself. It raises an interesting question, like, can he win the game when he's straight up like lying to everyone's faces right now? So I think we're set up for a really interesting merge and end game, I think, with this episode.
Yeah, sorry, I had to go. My dad just came home. I'm not usually home for these recaps, and I had to give him his stuff so that he would leave me alone. But I did hear what you had to say, and I mean, I think there was certainly a big, I guess, a 3-episode arc for Sabrina since that whole plan came together. And I mean, this was really still the ramifications of Senti flipping her vote. But we'll certainly talk about Sabrina in a second. But she brought a lot to the season for sure. And I think, like you said, there's a lot to look forward to for the merge also, as long as everybody can get through the sadness of tonight, which I hope they can. It's a really fun season still. Ryan, how about you?
I mean, I'm glad that we at least have 2 weeks to process what happened tonight. Thank you for that, whether or not that was the intention or not. Doubling back to what Bailey said, like with that whole thing of him lying to everybody, and he had that, it just cuts to that one scene of Shubal and Alex just shirtless in the room together. Like, it's totally The Office. Like, it's just so hilariously out of place. It's perfect every time it pops up, because it's like the 3rd time this season it's happened already. But I agree there with kind of the arc, and where I'm seeing the arc that actually interests me the most is still Shubal, and more that he started out early on recognizing his mistakes and trying to figure out, here's how I have to play to fix what I did the first time. And slowly but surely, he's been kind of reverting back to where he was before, it seems like, of that chaotic, lying to everybody, getting into these bad spots, but now he has an idol and it happens to be the same idol. Good on you for falling into that one. It's kind of falling back into that same path as last time. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes to into the merge now.
What a look! You're pulling deep if you're talking about season 1 stuff. I am very impressed.
But you put it in the episode too, still. So,
I know.
But, yeah.
But I mean, no, there is a lot of history repeating itself. You know, in season 1, a lot of people don't know this, but Shubal at the just as where we're at right now. I mean, Shubal was pretty much. I mean, I think the only thing is he was very dominant in the pre-merge. He had some a little bit more like he did on the guys' tribe, but I think there were more variables there. He was a little bit more of a central figure and pulled a blindside. But right around the merge, his game started, kind of blowing up a little bit, and his spot got exposed by some really good players who were against him, and it put him on the outs for the entire post merge. So I think a lot of the history repeating itself in terms of things kind of crashing around him right now happened. But he also found this idol, so it's certainly a lot to talk about there. Both some good with the idol and a lot of unfortunate stuff, or not even unfortunate, but stuff for him this episode. Will, thoughts on the episode?
So I really enjoyed this episode, but I think my biggest question coming out of last week's episode was, this was a great move by Shubal, but how is he going to recover from this move? Because I think it was a short-sighted move trying to save Sabrina last week. I think if he had kind of let Sabrina go last week, I think he wouldn't be in the position he is now this week and going into the merge. So I'm interested to see how he basically moves along without Sabrina. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about from hindsight of last week. Now, last week was a very impromptu move. I don't think anybody was able to know the ramifications of it until it happened. And I think even Shubal said that tonight. Like, Sabrina, you made me play so much harder than I wanted to, but whatever. Yeah. Here we go. Going back to Ryan's point, I thought about initially with this episode, and I think all of you guys have said you like this episode, and I thought it was a fun one. But initially, I was going to have this as part of the double because I thought this was going to be one of the weaker episodes of the season, just because we thought the boot was going to go one way, and then it wasn't hard to predict for the episode that if they went to tribal, Sabrina could go. But I think there's just so much to talk about from both tribes here and how they reacted, mostly around this Sabrina idea. So let's get into it, and let's talk about the vote first. I think that's the easiest thing to talk about. Sabrina goes home 3-2-1 in the end, and we saw a lot of build-up. We kind of saw 4 different plans. So there was Sabrina trying to get Eric to flip on. Well, there was the majority had the 2-2 split idea. Sabrina wanted to talk to Eric about flipping the vote onto Holly. Chris Thomas wanted to talk to Holly about flipping the vote onto Eric. There was talk in the middle of that, and also Sabrina and Chris Thomas both talked about being able to cast a vote for the other person. Ultimately, we saw Chris Thomas do that, and the other plan stick. So, what did you guys think of the vote? Not about whether it surprised you, but who did you think it was a good move for? Who did you think it was a bad move for? And I guess we can start from the other end here and go with Will.
Yeah, so the vote to me was pretty straightforward. I think the 2-2 split. The only thing that I was afraid of was Holly, Queen Holly. I think she's so close to being such a great player, but she just when it comes down to the vote, she just gets nervous and just gets super anxious. I think they made the right move by getting rid of Sabrina. It was a clear 2-2 split. I think that's what they needed to do.
So we can talk about Holly for a second in terms of everyone. I think to me the closest thing to a flip would have been Holly flipping onto Eric,
right?
And either pulling Ashley or maybe they get Sabrina to go. To the rest of you guys, do you think it was the right move for Holly to stick with the majority and go with the split plan, or should she have taken out Eric in this spot?
I personally think she made the right move by sticking with her group. Keep Eric a little bit longer, and I think you can get rid of Eric early merge.
Yeah, I agree. I think right before the merge wouldn't be a good time because I feel like they should go 4 strong into the merge. And even though she was maybe like pissed off about her name coming up as backup for the plan, it really reminded me of like Sierra Easton not wanting, you don't want your name to be the backup plan basically. But I was really nervous. I think Holly staying with them is a good move for her short term right now going into the merge when she's probably going to need all the numbers that she can.
Okay, so we're 2 for yes. Bailey.
I'm going to disagree. I think that if Holly had flipped on to Eric, it would have been a better move. Because I think that going into the merge now, Holly is with, it is well known, and if it's not well known, Chris Thomas, we all know his mouth, he will make it well known, that there is a majority of 4 that somehow he has pulled through, he has survived each time. But he knows that there's this majority of 4. Now Holly is stuck with this group of people going into one of the most crucial votes of the season. If Holly offs Eric, that makes the dynamics muddled. It makes her more of a free agent. She may still work with Chris. She may still work with Ashley, but there will be questions. So I think that if she might have a more shade of gray game that she played had she kicked off Eric instead of Sabrina.
Ryan, you gonna put it to rocks?
I'm not. So I think everything he's saying makes perfect sense. But I think the cons outweighed the pros a little bit on it. Really going into it, if you look at the pair of Shannon and Eric, Lecompt's going to cut Eric before he cuts Shannon. So she's got that vote no matter what going down into the merge. And at some point they're going to have to force that issue. So it's going to happen eventually. The Chris Thomas issue it's there. And I think that's definitely a valid point. And it might actually, I think, have played more into the favor of them going after Chris Thomas. In that case, may have actually benefited her a little bit more in this case. But at the same time, getting rid of Shubal and Sabrina together in the merge would have also been difficult. So it's a muddy water, but I think in the end it was the right move.
I think really quick, going off of what Bailey said, do you think that if if Holly went against her alliance, do you think that like Chris Lecompt and Ashley would be super pissed off at her and not want to work with her maybe come the merge, or want to like blindside her come the merge? Because I feel like when we saw Holly maybe wanting to blindside Eric a few weeks ago, everyone was sort of like angry at her and stuff like that, and like not wanting to trust her after that vote.
Yeah, there's no way any of them were going to trust Holly after that. If Holly flips, I think Shannon comes after her. I think Shannon picks up Evan and Micah. They go after her during the merge. There's no way Holly survives the merge.
But in the same vein, I think that, who does she have on the other side? She has Feluke. She has Victoria. She has Chris Thomas that saved her. She has blah, 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 this and that. And honestly, I also think that, well, yeah, maybe Chris Lecompt and Eric are not doing like a great, Chris Lecompt and Ashley, yeah, they might be pissed at Holly. It's the merge. Where the frickety frack are they going to go? If they want to survive, they're just going to have to be like, well, we could have off. That would have been, I would say if they weren't merging next, it would be a terrible move. But because it's basically going to be a whole new game coming into the merge, I think it could have been a smart move. But I also think it's okay. I think it's also, I'll acknowledge that Sabrina is a good option as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if breaking up the 4 was necessarily bad or not, or it would have been a good thing or not in this case, because really looking at it, if you look at the 4 going into the merge, I don't think Holly's even in the top 2 of the people that are going to get targeted there. With Chris Lecompt, that's number 1. No matter what, they're going to go after Chris. Eric's probably going to be on that list, and she's got a good relationship with Shannon already on the other side, so that helps her. Like, she's got options on the other side. So I think if there's anybody that can come out of that 4, she's definitely the best of the 4 to come out of that 4.
Yeah, and if anything, honestly, I think it would have been a better move for Eric to vote out Holly rather than Holly to vote out Eric.
I agree. Yeah. Because it shows that he has the kahunas to make a move on his own.
Right. And I think I would be nervous I think Holly and Shannon are the 2 people running the game right now. I think if Eric takes out Holly, I think Eric and Shannon will they basically will run the show, and they'll probably win the partner twist power. So I think that would have been a better move, but I still think getting rid of Sabrina was the best move.
Yeah. Well, my original leader for the partner twist to be one was Sabrina and Shubal. So, you know, honestly, in a weird way, I'm thinking it might be Chris Thomas and Victoria.
I think after that episode, we're all thinking that. I really do.
How would it be that of everyone to make it to the end, it would be the one who didn't even know who his goddamn partner was the entire time? And it's just another happenstance that Chris Thomas gets saved by that I would just absolutely die in love. But I hope that's it.
All right. Well, we could certainly get into the partner twist in a little bit. I think that'll certainly play into our overall discussion. But really good points all around there. I think that's a really interesting debate. And I actually don't even know the answer of what I think of what was the right move, whether it was, you know, I think probably I think Holly and Sabrina weren't really getting along at all and were targeting each other. And I think that's definitely part of it too. So talking about Sabrina and Chris Thomas, and especially just to kind of put a bow on Sabrina, I mean, I don't think we have to discuss that. I think we all agree Sabrina was both a really fun character and I thought a really strong player for a lot of this season. Are we all in agreement on that? I think
absolutely.
Yeah.
The amount of winner picks that I saw for her, they are all crying tonight.
There are a lot of people crying tonight.
Because I will speak because there was a lot of people who were saying Nicole Senti had a great end and we're going to win. I was on Sabrina. I literally thought up until 5 minutes, the moment that last vote was read for Sabrina, that Sabrina was the winner and she was getting a redemption arc in the merge. And I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but that was like what I thought the entire season. Yeah. I thought this was Sabrina's season, and this was Sabrina's narrative.
Yeah,
she was actually. I can reveal this now. She was my second pick. I had the 4th overall pick in our in the fantasy draft I did with a couple of crew people, and Sabrina was right there for me, and I had like the 3 and 4 votes, so it didn't really matter. Basically, she was one of my top picks too, and I think that if Senti doesn't flip her vote, I have no idea what happens, and I think Sabrina's in a really good spot to go really deep in the game. I think she had a lot of skill. I do want to ask, you know, Sabrina and Chris Thomas were on the outs this episode. We see Chris Thomas survive. We don't see Sabrina survive. Do you guys think that Sabrina could have done anything tonight? Is there anything? Was she totally robbed, flawless, nothing wrong, or were there some things that she thinks she could do better?
I think ultimately, it came down to Nicole Senti, and I think Nicole Senti was her Achilles heel. Nicole Senti could just not keep to the plan, stick to the plan, and get out Chris Lecompt in the game, which would have opened up that tribe for a lot of different moves that weren't necessarily have that group of 4 stick together. So I think ultimately, I think Nicole Senti was the chink in Sabrina's armor, which really is no fault of her own. I'm surprised she lasted 2 rounds, much less 1. And that play really solidified her as a threat, and that's why she wins. So ultimately, I think there's a lot of different factors that go in. I do think that Nicole Senti was something that she just couldn't plan for, and she was absolutely r.obd.
I don't think it was as bad as last time, at least, in terms of getting screwed. But definitely all the Senti stuff that went on definitely played a lot into it. It was tough to really recover from that. And it was a really tough episode to watch from that point of view, because I think after the last tribal council going into this episode, we all expected what to happen to happen. It wasn't really a surprising thing. So the whole time it was just like, can it fix itself? And that was kind of where the fun of the episode was whether or not she could pull through a second time, which would have been awesome, but unfortunately didn't work out.
This was like the vote right after the 3 Amigos tribal council, where it's like, it's so obvious that, you know, Malcolm is going to go home that next tribal council. Like, Sabrina pulled an awesome move last week. Like, amazing. Probably one of the best in Survivor Maryland history. One of the best. But she just couldn't recover from that. She had such a big target on her back. I do want to give kudos to Chris Thomas for throwing his vote on Sabrina. This is the first episode I was impressed by Chris Thomas, by the way. Just like
the first one, nice.
First one. And yeah, so
what impressed you about that for him? We can talk about him too.
I like how he's changed his mind at he said like, oh no, I don't want to be like a floater that just doesn't vote, that just votes with the majority. Honestly, what he should have done at the beginning of this game was be a floater that just voted with the majority.
But isn't that why everybody hates Eric?
Yeah. Eric, I don't know.
But at least in confessional,
you can't have it both ways, right?
I think in confessional, you would see Chris Thomas talk a lot about how he still wants to get Chris Lecompt out.
Right.
And then when the game actually happened, he wouldn't be doing it yet. So it'd be more of like a biding your time kind of thing, whereas Eric is just along for the ride right now.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think Chris Thomas, I want to say like Chris Thomas is like a dark horse pick to make it to the like a final 3, final 4 situation. I can see him making it really far in the game now.
No, yeah. With the tribal, I thought Sabrina would be the one that if they wanted to flip, she would be the one that would be voting Chris and not Chris voting Sabrina, because like he said in the episode, he didn't want to be a pawn and go with like the majority alliance's plan. And just like with the episode, I don't know. I think last week when we saw that amazing idol play, maybe if some crazy kind of thing happened and Shubal wanted to give her the idol, wanted to tell her about this real idol, she and Chris Thomas, if they wanted to work together, could pull out 2 idols at tribal or something and then really force the 4 to try to turn on each other. But like that would be super crazy, good TV, but maybe not the most strategic thing in the game.
And I would like to give credit to the fact that Sabrina's move last tribal was great. If their tribe had won immunity this round and she got to the merge, we would be singing our praises for that move.
Amazing.
Yeah.
She literally had no other option. She would have gotten voted out had she not done that. She just prolonged her fate sometimes you just have to prolong your fate for a tribal council and you get lucky and something changes. Unfortunately, she prolonged her fate and nothing changed.
Yeah, zero question in my eyes that Sabrina absolutely should do everything exactly the same as she did last week.
Yeah.
Maybe you can pick Calms a little bit of like could have been a little more open and working more socially. I don't think we saw her reestablish a relationship at all the same way that I think Chris Thomas did with Holly. But still, I think the move last week was so good, but it certainly puts a target on you. And I expected I thought the Uruk-hai tribe would lose this week. Furiosa is just a pretty physical tribe, and if they hadn't just screwed up the foot challenge, I think they really could have a chance. But I think you're right. If that move gets her the merge, which is all you're hoping for at that point, then it totally works. But let's talk. Speaking of that, I think we'd be remiss not to at least bring up Shubal at this point. And there's a lot of things to talk about with Shubal, both from this episode and kind of from last. The first question I have, and I haven't seen this talked about a lot yet, but do you guys think there was any merit in Shubal, now that he had this real idol, giving that to Sabrina or letting her use it tonight?
Nah.
Yeah. I think he needs to keep it for himself. At this point, even if Sabrina gets saved this round and they both make it to the merge, one of them's going home at the merge. Like, no question. He had to keep it for himself, and maybe he can do some strategic maneuvering on his own.
No, yeah, I agree. Even last week, I think giving the fake idol was a little sketchy because it brings so much attention to you, and we saw some of that fallout this week. And then if he did give a real idol or something like that this week, going into the merge, I think it would just be a double target on both of their backs, especially after this time, seeing how much of a target. And I think sometimes it's just like you have to cut your losses. We see it in Real Survivor. I think a lot of people are relating this move to Jeremy giving the idol to Fishback, and then Fishback gets voted out a few episodes later. And I think with this, it's sort of similar. Like sometimes you need your partner for like that vote, the next few votes, but sometimes you have to cut your losses. And I'm glad Shubal didn't give the idol.
And I think on top of that, the reason that I said, oh, maybe Holly should have voted out Eric to just show that she's kind of a free agent. I think that that's another good thing for Shubal because everyone already thinks they're a pair. He plays an idol on her. Like they're basically one person with 2 votes at that point in everyone else's eyes. So the fact that everyone thinks Jordan Shubal is sketchy after that move.
Yeah.
So, but now at least he has the advantage of being a solo player, whereas everyone would have just thought that Sabrina and him were tight as rain, and then just targeted them as a duo.
Yeah, I think all.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
You go.
Oh, yeah, I think also with Sabrina going home with an idol or her tribe thinking she maybe got voted out with a real idol in her pocket, whether people think it's real or fake, now nobody knows that Shubal has a real idol in his pocket, so I think that'll be good for him in the weeks to come.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's painful to watch, but in the long run, losing Sabrina is better for Shubal's game. It really is. And it's tough with the dynamic of the partners twist because that's something that's never been seen before, so we really can't compare what it would be like to play that move. Is it enough? Is it not enough? But I think the scene where Shubal's going through and talking about how he's maybe too deep into this game and that he doesn't want to be doing what he's doing, this might be kind of a turning point for him to be able to kind of come back and chill out a little bit. I don't think it'll work, but I admire him trying. Yeah. Yeah,
and Shubal's game, literally ever since the swap, has just been, he's been on like Tony levels of crazy. Like he's been like so like that
like
first
game
tribal
changers,
council,
Tony of crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. So that first tribal, the Michelle vote, was like he was lying to every single person. This, you know, and then like he's controlling votes on the other tribe as well. So these last four episodes of Shubal were just mad. And he needs to just take a breather. You know, he just lost his partner. Maybe just take a second, like work with Alex G. Just take, you know, just do some social game.
I would like to readdress that nobody knows that Shubal has an idol, because I really want to know how Feluke figured out by Jordan patterns. That this is why I was so happy that Feluke came back. This is weird, bizarro shit that somehow speaks to her that I would never gather, and she's right. Like somehow his OCD tendencies and his flip-flopping on whether he wanted to be in the challenge and him having to pee made it like, oh, he found an idol during the challenge. Like, what? She is incredible and a goddess, and she should have won season 3. Come out.
I can't believe they let him back into the challenge. I was in awe with that. Yeah. Especially just the manner in which he did that. I would have never let anybody into the challenge there. It doesn't make any sense for me to do that. It's so transparent. I think everybody
was just like floored. And the other thing I will say is that this is just after the first idol challenge thing had happened. I bet probably a lot of people hadn't even seen it. And actually, I don't even. I guess the premiere of Cambodia had definitely happened, so it existed. So I think everyone was just like so taken aback. I also thought it was really funny that he talking about how he'd make the shots and he didn't make any of them. I think
right.
Like, yeah, I don't know, but I just wanted to say that there are two things that really pissed me off in terms of the audience reaction to the season so far. One didn't piss me off, but the thing that pisses me off is people who fast forward to the end and then comment 5 seconds in. That really bothers me, and I don't know why you would even watch it if that's what you're doing. Second thing, that's aside. The second thing that is the most ridiculous thing is that I was getting so much shit in the first 4 episodes for why I casted Shubal, because he was so boring, and he's a boring player who was passive and whatever. And I can understand why you would say that after the first 4 episodes, kind of. But like, good Lord, I was like, oh my God, you people, just wait. Like,
you wanted Chris Thomas to just sit back and not do anything. Okay, sure.
I'm telling you, people,
Thomas,
go read the comments back and see what people were saying about some people were fans, but a lot of haters too. Anyway. Sorry. So Chris Thomas is saying Shubal is the definition of boring. So
everything's full circle now.
Back to our normal programming.
And now everyone wants him out because he's a villain. People probably hate him more than Chris Lecompt at this point. That might be a stretch, but
I don't know if that's true.
But I think it's interesting because the thing that really confused me about your edit, and I'm really interested to see where this goes. The entire time that we were talking about Shubal was coming off abrasive as hell. It was just like, it was always Shubal needed his way. People were talking to each other. We need to get Shubal out. He's this, he's that. Shubal, like, basically saying, I need to sit out, then reading the clue. And he's like, I need to come back in. And getting his way with that. And then all of a sudden he gets to we get this, like, emotional confessional from him. And, like, saying, this is not what I want to be doing. And that really confuses me because that entire episode, I was like, Shubal's the merge boot. But now I'm like, where are we going with this? Like, I think, I don't know if we're doing predictions. I could see either Shubal being merge boot or, like, cut right before the finals again, in my opinion.
We can get to Shubal predictions, but did you guys have a thought on the, I guess, sort of the fall of Shubal, rise of Shubal, emotional of Shubal, the journey of this episode with him?
I think he's hit rock bottom. I think there's nowhere to go but up for Shubal. I think he lost a lot of allies with Shannon doesn't trust him. I mean, for some reason, Evan still trusts him. Yeah, I don't know. And then he still has Alex G. Victoria's shaky on him. The whole other tribe is shaky on Shubal. I think he needs to just relax, build some of those bonds again, and see where it goes. I think he may have to play his idol the first vote after the merge, but
I think it's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
He'll play it, no one will know he has it, and then boom, there we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Shubal is super self-aware. Like, we saw that confessional this episode. So I think, like you all are saying, I think he can definitely go up from here. It might take a lot of work, considering the position that he's in going into the merge with everyone sort of like sketch on him. But I think if he just sits back, maybe let some of the other power players talk more or go after each other, and then sort of take the back seat for maybe 1 or 2 votes. If he isn't the first target, then like he could probably go further into the game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think he is drawing dead right now, and where I think the storyline is good is I don't think he is dead right now. I think there's a lot of room for him to move forward here, and that's really, optimistic going forward, especially with that very, self-centric confessional that he had. You can see that he can come back from this. It could be kind of like a death and rebirth arc for him. I don't think he's got a long-term path forward, but I think at least for the first half or so of the merge, I think there's a way through. And unfortunately, it does feature his idol pretty early on.
Yeah.
But also Survivor's biggest fan, Adam Klein, pretty much in a similar vein. This is around the time that everyone thought he was drawing dead in the same scenario. Everyone thought he was never going to win. He had no shot. So he could surprise us. This could be the catalyst to change up his game. We're going to have to see.
Yeah, I mean, just from a real time what was happening perspective, I mean, you have to think, first of all, the last kind of 3 episodes were condensed into the span of, I don't know, what is the total, 5 days maybe, but, in real life, in days on college, when you have other things going on too, it's really action packed. And I think all the lying definitely like caught him in his head. I mean, I remember talking to him at the time. He was like calling me at 3 a.m. and he was like lying to his mom about hooking up with Sabrina because he wasn't sure what was true and not anymore. Like, couldn't even anything. I think you really see how playing that hard of a game takes such a toll, especially when it's not the only thing you have going on. I mean, the fact that Tony managed to not go crazy was maybe insane, but I guess also he had time to decompress at night, right? Like, and just sit there and not have school.
Tony had Trish. Just saying. Survivor hags here. I love Trish with all my heart, and she should have won.
Trish, I wouldn't say that. I would agree with that. So let's talk real quick about the a big part of the story that led us into things with everybody's reactions to Shubal was this big lie about Shubal and Sabrina hooking up. What did you think of that strategy to kind of recover from last week's move and how it was presented and executed as well? Do you think that was the best way for them to go about it?
It was better than coming out as secret partners. I mean, you had to do something. Although I think once confronted by, especially by Shannon, I think Shubal should have told Shannon. I mean, obviously Shannon has a really good read on people. She's probably I think she is the best player of this game so far. I think Shubal should have came clean to Shannon, but they had to do something.
And I think with that scene with Shannon was a huge scene in the episode because I think that's going to be foreshadowing the end of Shubal. I really do. Just with her saying, if I find out you're lying to me, I will vote you out. It seems like that's the end point. It feels right now. And I think he made a huge mistake by not telling her the truth.
Yeah, I feel like him lying to everyone's faces and like burning these bridges, I feel like especially this episode with Fluke and Shannon, those are two, I feel like, people that hold a lot of sway in the game. So just not having that on your side come the merge might not be like the best for Shubal coming up. And then I think it's an interesting question, like what's worse, telling people like, oh, you're hooking up, or oh, we're secret partners. And I feel like both have an interesting like twist to them, because it's like, oh, hooking up, like maybe, you know, it could be super serious and then you probably won't want to vote each other out. Secret partners, you probably also won't want to vote each other out. So I think it's like an interesting dilemma that these two are put into.
Yeah, I think ultimately the problem isn't whether he should have lied or not. The problem is him helping Sabrina with this move in the first place. Because I think ultimately the hooking up strategy, I think I wouldn't call it the best strategy. I'd call it the only strategy that was given. There's literally, I don't think there's any other better story that you could have given than, yep, we were a one-night stand. I caught the feels. They're gone now. The one-time thing, done it before.
And they were playing off things that people already sort of believed. Like you see Holly last episode talking about it.
And there's a lot of people that believe them. So it probably was the best move. But ultimately, I think that the onus falls on Jordan helping out with the move in the first place. And that's where he finds himself now.
Yeah, and I think also maybe the way Shubal went about everything, like we see that edit where he's like talking to everyone back to back to back. And it's like, okay, I feel like that's not maybe the best move to go with telling everyone. I feel like telling maybe one or two people that have big mouths and then having maybe rumors spread throughout. So he's not straight up telling lies to everyone on the season. Because I feel like if the jury is bitter at the end and if he does happen to make it to the end, he's going to have a hard time explaining himself, I feel like, if the jury dislikes his actions.
My favorite reaction was definitely Victoria's. She's like, "Oh wow."
Okay.
I think she said, "Okay."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, has everyone
did enjoy that?
like he's just like, I mean, sorry, not Fluke. Victoria's just like, all right. Like, oh, it was so phased. It was perfect, and that's why she's my queen, and I love her.
So I have a question, and you know, now that we know the merge is coming, it doesn't matter, and I don't know the answer to this, but what do you guys think would have happened? We kind of saw it, both Shubal getting the message out, and then Holly getting the message out to the other tribes, and then all these things, the trio and Fluke talking, and I mean, what did you guys take away from that in terms of what would have happened if Yurikai had lost, and where do you think things would have shaken out?
I think that Shubal would have been enemy number one, and he would have had to play that idol to get to the merge. Ultimately, I think I think that he would have had to play the idol, and I believe he would have targeted one of the Soka trio to break that. Like, if he's probably gonna get voted 6-1. He's either gonna do that or vote out Fluke to kick her out and make space in the leader, in like the front runners of the season.
Honestly, I think Jordan is very lucky that his tribe won immunity. I think he probably gets all the votes against him. I don't think he plays his idol. I think he thinks he's comfortable in that tribe. And I think we're very lucky that we didn't get Jordan Shubal going home with an idol in his pocket.
I think a lot of it would depend on where Victoria ends up in that vote. I think she would actually play a big key, because I think it depends on whether or not his relationship with Victoria is more than what we really see. Obviously, we've seen that kind of build up a little bit, but it's, would Victoria tip him off? Would Victoria try to use him as a, maybe we can get Feluke out or something like that? That would maybe make it a little bit more interesting in that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't know what would have happened. So your guesses are as good as mine. The only other question I have from, I think, what kind of happened there is we talked about Shannon confronting Shubal, and I saw some debate about whether you guys think that Shannon should have kept that to herself or confronted. And I don't know. I think that there's a lot of ways that you could take this. I don't think there's a clear-cut answer, but did you guys like it from Shannon, kind of the approach of that way, or do you think that she should have just kept it to herself?
I like the move. Shannon has just been really impressive to me this whole game. Her ability to read people, her social game with she has nobody against her. This whole game, she has been really, really impressive, and I think this is another power move by her to basically, are you lying to me? And then if she was basically lying to her face, Shannon is just been fantastic.
No, yeah, I agree. Shannon is set up so well for the merge. I feel like she has so many of those social connections with like Feluke and then Eric, and then with Chris also because of that. And so I feel like out of the Soka trio, I feel like Shannon's probably the most safe going into the merge out of those three.
I think I agree with Tyler in the chat that, it works out perfectly because it was a pretty good move on her part to kind of sow the seeds, but her hands are completely clean at this point. I mean, she's kind of doing all this under the radar, and I don't think anybody's really catching on to any of it. She's got her hands in so many cookie jars, but all the cookie jars like her a lot, so they're not even paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't even think Shannon sowed the seeds. I think Jordan tried to sow seeds and Shannon just dug them right up. Because ultimately there's nothing Jordan tried to plant something, but there's nothing that's going to grow because Shannon was making sure and saying, don't believe his bullshit. He's not telling the truth. And that is going to poison the thoughts of Jordan throughout. And suddenly we have our merge target. And regardless of whether he has an idol or not, the onus is not going to be on her.
I think you could even make the argument that Shannon sowed the seeds episodes ago with TextGate. Yeah. That poisoned the well way back when, and you're still seeing that come up today. And that's amazing.
Wait, which TextGate? There's the Chris Thomas fake text, and then there was the Shannon. There's so many.
When she ignores the text when they're all sitting in the room together.
The Michelle boot.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the merge and what's going forward. And the best way I thought to do this, and we don't have to take too long on this because it's already 10:30. Wow, we did start late, but you guys are first of all doing a great job. So great discussion. I'm really enjoying it. So the way I thought we could kind of break this down is we've got 12 people left, and I think kind of quick hitters. Not everybody has to comment on everybody if you don't want to, or just some quick thoughts. But let's kind of talk about each person's position. And the way I broke it down was, so we have 12 people. Predict, do you think they're going to go early merge? So I would consider that 12th to 8th, late merge, which is 7th to 4th, or final 3. And I'm not saying that's a final 3. I've actually said on somewhere last week that I'm having a final 2. That's what I wanted for last season. So it is going to be that. If anybody didn't know, woo, now you know. But just 3 is a good number for I think the end game. So we can talk about that, your predictions from there, and then why you think they're set up well or going to go far, and I think this will help guide us in terms of the alliances that we've talked about. So let's talk to some people that we haven't talked about yet too much. Let's start off with everyone's favorite and who had a confessional tonight. I will note Alex G. Where does Alex G fall? Where do you guys think he's going to end up? And what do you think? I mean, he got out at the merge last time, so I think that I honestly think that a lot of his pre-merge is being scared as fuck about doing the same thing right around the merge, but sorry for the cursing. Anyway, Alex G, thoughts? I don't know who wants to start the Alex G standing.
I'll start. Alex G, I think he has a great opportunity to make it late merge. He has a good. I think if honestly, his best opportunity is if Shubal goes, and he's kind of this dangerous floater that someone could pick up later to vote out Eric or to vote out Chris Lecompt or whoever. I think I can see him making it to like final 6, final 7-ish. But after that, I think he's expendable.
I just want to comment on tonight. I was absolutely floored because through 1.5 seasons, I don't think I've ever seen any sort of character scene from Alex G at all. It's always been cookie cutter. I need to win this challenge. I'm safe, blah, blah, blah. These are the alliances. Today, he's like, we won the challenge. He's punching the air. He's making jokes. I'm like, who are you? Who the fuck are you? Like, it was such an amazing moment. And I was just like, okay, maybe he actually has a shot to go deep. So yeah, I'm going to say late merge as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think late merge also. He's set up well, like under the radar. I feel like come merge time, there's a lot of big dogs that people would want to vote at. I feel like Alex G won't really be on people's radars to get out like at right next week.
I think he's right in the middle there. It really could go either way, honestly. Just it's so up in the air at this point. I could see him going out early if just the first vote's just chaos, and then he ends up being kind of the settle on boot that no one really is bothered by immediately after that at 12.
I would kind of agree with you. I think that he's like the pivotal. He is the next boot after a pivotal, and then it's just like, well, we got to pegong some people. Bye, Alex.
Yeah, I think we're a sort of like Survivor season sort of lull when you sort of vote out the people that don't really get that much screen time. So right in the middle there.
It's kind of the cool down boot just to let us catch up for 1 week.
There is no cool down this season, I'm telling you. No
okay.
Okay, let's talk about next. We've talked about her a little bit in terms of kind of sussing out Shubal, but let's talk about Feluke standing. I mean, she came into the game 5 rounds in. Let's not forget that. And we've seen some scenes of her here kind of connecting with the Soka trio. Where do we think Feluke falls going forward? I mean,
she can't win, right?
Feluke is like the way it's formatted is like sort of under the radar, and yet she's Feluke.
I just don't see how she can win. That's the biggest trouble I have with her edit, I guess, is just, or even just her position in the game of just, she came in late enough. She's always going to have that against her. And she hasn't really had the opportunity to do anything big yet, but unless she comes out swinging early in this merge, it's going to be tough to overcome that, I think, come the end. But I do think she's in a position to go pretty far.
But I do also think she survived. She was not 5 tribals, and I believe like 4 of them were almost unanimous votes, if not unanimous. Like that was just trimming the fat. She could easily just say like, I don't think the game really started until there. So, and that's when she showed up. I think she's well set up. I could see her in the final 3 again. Maybe not winning, but I could definitely see her getting close to the end just because she has good connections. She has not really Victoria, but she has like Shubal and the Soka trio and Holly telling her information. I think that she could go far. I think she could get pulled in with Holly into something, and that could make or break her game.
No, yeah, I think Feluke could honestly be like final 3 or 4. I feel like she has those connections that she can be on the majority come the merge. And even though she does have like that big personality, people might be like, oh, we can always vote her out next week. And like, if they don't see her as a threat to win, then you can keep bringing her along. But I feel like she is a really good player at the game, so people have to be careful.
Yeah, I think her best opportunity to win would honestly be to get to the end with, Victoria, Ashley, throw in Shannon, maybe Holly. I think that group, she can kind of work her way into that. And then I think you're right. I think she can make it to final 4 around there. Yeah, I can't see her winning though, honestly.
I do like that you say her best strategy is for her to team up with all the women to take over all the
Basically what you did last time.
Yeah.
Just do the same thing.
Wow. Congratulations, everyone. We got Alex G as the winner. Woo. Terry.
No, is it? I think that means they're gonna finally establish their majority and vote out Evan's mole at 7, right? Vote out Harry. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So let's talk about another person we haven't talked much about her tonight. Last week was kind of a big episode for her, but Victoria, another person, Victoria, one of the stars coming into the season, and I think it speaks a lot to this cast that, you know, partially not going to tribal and also just a little bit under the radar. We're not talking a lot about her. So Victoria, what are our thoughts going forward for her after an interesting, kind of an unexpected, I think, pre-merge for her?
I'm worried for Victoria. I really like her. I like how she's kind of become a little bit under the radar, which she needed, coming with the big target coming on her back, and with Feluke coming in. I am worried that I think she's just got unlucky with the numbers. I don't think she has a solid alliance with anyone. And if I don't know, I think I could see her going early merge.
Yeah, I see early merge also. I think, like we saw this episode, Feluke sort of wants to get her out. So I feel like Feluke would win that battle if it's like the Feluke versus Victoria vote coming up. And I think Victoria would be on the losing end of that. I feel like Shannon and Eric would win the partner twist over her and Chris.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Victoria mention voting out Feluke early too? Because I feel like that happened to this episode.
I think it was the opposite. Feluke was talking to Holly and said she want to vote out Victoria.
Yeah, I thought. Sorry, maybe I'm thinking of something else. I do think that Victoria is another early boot target. Like if something with Shubal doesn't work out, and then the next vote they don't want to target Shubal because they think he has an idol again. I think the whole cast can get behind Victoria, because Victoria and Alex are playing a very similar game, but Alex has way more ins with people that I think he's going to get dragged along. And Victoria's reputation as a leader, she almost won her season. I think that it's going to screw her in the end. And I first of all think she's going to be the winner, but if she's not, she's going to.
I think a lot of it too is just her normal arc is, you know, she's quiet in the start. She kind of was in Terrapin Trials also, and then she kind of slowly starts to build back up. And you started to see that in the last couple episodes where she has been showing up a little bit more and getting a little bit more screen time.
Go ahead. Sorry. Finish.
But I don't know if it works out this time. I don't see kind of pulling together the same way it did last time. And I think her reputation will probably come back to bite her a little bit.
The only thing that kind of makes me doubt like her going out early is we did get actually last episode a great amount of content from her, just talking about the ins and outs of her tribe and where she thought she was, and she acknowledged that she wasn't in a great spot, but it just really like showed, hey, she is somewhat aware of what's going on. Maybe that serves her in the merge, and her game does exactly what it did last season, and it catches on fire and blazes into the future, but we don't know.
And obviously the Feluke thing kind of hiccuped things a little bit along the way also. Just I felt like she was kind of settling into her under the radar position, and then as soon as Feluke showed up, it threw everything out the window. Her demeanor just switched like that, and I think it shook things up a little bit too much. It's hard to see how much recovery you really get from that.
Okay. Also, I'll just put a note. I mean, how far we've come that 10 minutes before the vote, Holly's confiding in Victoria about. I mean, when I was watching back the footage, I was like, "What? Really?"
Because what if Victoria and Feluke end up working together throughout the game because they both have Holly as a connection? Like, that could happen, and if it does, I will cry.
If that alliance reforms, that trio, I don't know what I'll do with myself. That would just be amazing.
We just end up with a final 3 of Victoria, Feluke, and Holly, but Holly hasn't told the 2 of them that they're all working together as 3. They just think they're working with Holly, and then they figure it out at the end and cut Holly, and we get the final 2 of Feluke, Victoria we didn't get before.
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would just be like the Real House Alliance of Maryland right there. Like,
Let's talk next about Micah, who I still see the Micah's going to win stands. If Micah doesn't, I'm seeing a raised hand from Bailey. I'm not sure if that's a yes, I'm also a Micah stan, or no. But in terms of Micah, we saw, and I'll have this in the secret scenes. I would have put it last week, but he did react to the Sierra thing and was like, "Well, I almost got my plan to get out of Lecompt through." But that was kind of the big thing we've seen the last few episodes. Where do we think Micah fits in, and what his prospects are?
I wanted to answer first because Micah has been so irrelevant during this season that this episode, his biggest moment was him taking out the headrest out of the back of the chair and putting it down so you could see Feluke's head better. He was a production member this episode. He was not a player. I really...
Shading his calling for the ball and getting the win. What?
He is just... The Soka trio has been such an interesting thing, like, as a whole, because Shannon's the only one that's getting any actual, like, separated, oh, this is what the Soka trio is doing, this is how I feel about it. Whereas Evan and Micah are just, Evan gets, like, a few character scenes here and there, and Micah is literally just paint on the brick outside the challenge. Like, I just don't know where Micah falls at all. He could end up in the end game and get nothing. He could get out first and get nothing. I literally do not know because Micah has just not been established as a character this season at all.
I don't know. Going off your point with that scene, you focus on taking the headrest off, but him putting his hand on Evan's hands, as they said this was a Bailey's car, was low-key the moment of the episode. So there's something there. But it really snuck past, but I thought it was amazing. But I think my biggest problem with where Micah's at right now is it's the same thing as it was last season. He was kind of the third wheel to Shannon and Evan, and I feel like he's still sort of slotted into that position of he could end up being the last of the three, but he still doesn't get to the end. So I still think he could go far. I just don't think. I mean, if anybody takes a shot at Soka Trio, it's still not going to be him. So he still doesn't have the chance to get all the way, but I think he's still slated to go somewhat late merge.
I mean, the only person that has even talked about, hey, I'm not tied to these guys, is Shannon. Shannon is the only person who has said, I may have worked with Micah and Evan in my first season. I have no intentions to stick with them to the end again. So yeah. I think that's how it ends for Micah, is Shannon blindsides the fuck out of him.
Yeah. I think Micah's problem this season is trusting Evan. I think Evan has had really bad reads this season, even from the very first vote of voting out Alex. I think Micah's best move is to just honestly cut Evan, or like once Evan goes home, Micah just needs to latch onto Shannon and then ride Shannon to the end, and then see what happens. But I don't see him winning. I can see him making it deep, but I can also see him maybe early merge. I don't know. He's a wild card.
That sexual tension with Micah and Shannon. No, yeah. I think if Micah goes early merge, I feel like people would want to target the Soka trio to split those three up, and I feel like the vote would be between Micah and Evan, and I feel like Shannon's so well connected with like Eric and Chris and them, they wouldn't really target her, so I feel like if he were to go early, it's because they're targeting those two, and if Micah could be the fault of Evan.
Yeah, Micah's biggest weakness was over trusting Evan. I think Evan has had really bad reads this season.
Well, let's talk about Evan then. Evan can be next. Oh, sorry, did I cut him off on Micah?
Just say I wouldn't call Micah the wild card, more the mild card.
Wow. Wow, shots fired. All right. Evan, then. Will just talked about Aaron a little bit. Aaron, what am I talking about? I'm exhausted. Evan, what's our take on Evan?
Oh boy,
this has been a very different season for Evan. He was, golden boy, star of the pre-merge.
Yeah,
not the same this season, I think.
Yeah, last season he had really good reads on people. He was controlling a lot of the votes. He was aligned really well with kind of everybody, and then towards the late merge when things happen. But I don't know what's happening. I feel like Evan's head wasn't really in this season. I think he's still thinking about last season, how he came so close, but I don't know.
I feel like this season, Evan is just being edited as Micah with jokes. The only content that we ever get from Evan is him making an albeit funny clip about something happening in the season. Like I said about Micah, I don't think we've gotten any content about him outside of the Soka trio. It's always just been about what is going on with the Soka trio. And Shannon's the only one that's getting like the separation. So I think that I could definitely see Micah and Evan going back to back, because I just don't think that they have a lot separating them besides the fact that Evan has a personality. Like, it's on camera. I'm not that much of a douche, but
I think the question I have still with him is, in the trivia challenge, was he actually playing dumb, or
No,
did he
he was not.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I think that kind of plays a lot into it. I think I agree with everybody else said so far. Of just the one thing I will say is he had some comments early on about trying to target Lecompt, and he's very aware of his, that he has to get Lecompt out at some point, but it wasn't the right time then. So it might kind of end up being a storyline of, did he wait too long, and now he doesn't have the numbers behind him at all, so he's not able to do it. I think Chris Lecompt versus Evan's going to be something that plays into it a little early on, and I can't see Evan winning at this point.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree.
think there's so much. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Rachel.
yeah. I feel like Evan sort of gives me like Spencer Bledsoe vibes. I feel like if Evan, maybe could make the final 2 with Shannon or something like that, and people would see him as like riding her coattails the entire way. Because I feel like Shannon, I don't know, I wouldn't bring Eric to the end, but maybe you would because we haven't seen that much from him.
I think ultimately the entire Soka trio, the downfall to most, if not all of their games, is going to be the fact they never gave themselves a chance to take each other out. Because I just think that they're gonna come into the merge, and it's gonna be Soka trio versus Lecompt, Eric, Ashley, and Holly. And then once Shubal goes, obviously, but like once it's like down to brass tacks and now we have to start conglomerating into groups when we can't all agree on a boot, it's going to come down to those 2 groups, and it's going to be up to the center to see who's home.
And with Shannon and Lecompt being partners, the Soka trio never win that battle.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Shannon's going to flip from that trio immediately.
I assume you mean it like allies, not partners, or.
Well, Eric and Shannon.
Okay.
Sorry.
Groups.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I got you.
On those guys in a heartbeat to get that 2 rounds, and I would too.
I think we all agree the issue with the Soka trio is that Alan drew the wrong color, and that's it. That ruined everything. You're still seeing it today.
It's Alan's fault.
The whole Alan's fault.
Alan is the Senti before Senti.
Yeah, he's the Achilles heel here.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Ashley, who we talked a little bit about. Ashley's big moment today, the drunken frat boy leaving you at a party. That's what last.
Goal.
That was my favorite line of the episode.
I just wanted to say, I wrote this down because this made me laugh so much. She says that Survivor makes you feel like you're dating a douchey frat boy, and she said that long alliance with Chris and Eric. That made me laugh my ass off. But I think she's well set up. I think that she has a great. We all thought that Sabrina was going to be the pre-merge sad boot that was going to come back and then win it all. It could be Ashley. What bizarre world do we live in? But like, he's doing very well. That misplay by Senti, it ended Sabrina's game and it boosted Ashley. Because now she is in tight with people, but she is not a threat whatsoever. People are going to target literally everyone else in her alliance over her, and she has a lot of pull, I think.
Yeah, I think Ashley is Alex G's biggest competition of biggest floater in the game that's going to ride everybody's coattails all the way to the final 3. I think Ashley is a shoo-in for, final 4, final 3, maybe even final 2. Yeah, lock it in for me.
I think
Yeah,
Ashley's issue is going to be, can she float at the right time to the other group? And I'm not completely convinced of that yet. I think she's floated into the right spot, but she's also kind of been pushed into that position a little bit. Whereas, will she be able to recognize the right time to make the flip down the road? We'll see. And I would love for it to happen. It would be great TV.
Yeah, I think for Ashley, if she gets voted out early, it's because people want to target like Eric or Lecompt, but they might think they have an idol or something, so they would try to target Ashley because they wouldn't think they're giving their idol to Ashley over Holly, that kind of thing. So I feel like that could make her go out earlier. Otherwise, she could float her way on.
And every time I'm like, oh, maybe Ashley can win, I do think about in the premiere episode after the first challenge, she had a fight with people at Boba TV. And everyone commented on how goddamn weird it was.
Oh my God.
Somebody that has trouble holding her tongue and not saying what's on her mind. And the question is she going to be able to rise above it and make it and be able to even if she makes it to the end, even explain her game. Like, I floated into the right positions, and that strategy has worked to win, and it has worked to lose. She is playing, I think she's playing a coin flip game right now, and the rest of how she plays that is what's going to impact what she does in what I think she's a shoo-in for Final Tribal. So I think that's what's going to decide her game.
Yeah, I think at Final Tribal, win or lose, she has to show that she's earned those moves, and I think it's all up to the jury whether they respect her or they think she's just the big goat of this season, because I feel like right now a lot of people probably view her as someone they don't need to worry about, so she needs to sort of rise above that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, it's so crazy, and this happens every week. Chris Lecompt has been one of the biggest days of the season, obviously, in every episode. This one probably the least, actually, but most episodes have revolved around him a lot. I guess really this time just kind of like a little duel with Sabrina. With Sabrina, sorry. But what do we think about Chris Lecompt? I've seen a lot of comments about him, potential merge boot. I think a lot of people are talking about him and Shubal's potential merge boots. Where do you guys think he will end up? And I guess my other question is, what should he do next?
What he needs to do is lock down that 4-person alliance, Eric, Shannon, Holly, himself, and then bring in Ashley. I think if he gets a tight 5, he could maybe make some moves, just vote out some of the stragglers like Shubal and Victoria, Chris Thomas. And then he can kind of maybe do some maneuvering there. But I do not see him making it past early merge. He is such a big target. He's very smart, very energetic, great social game. But he's such a big threat.
I think Chris Lecompt at this point, his best strategy is to do exactly what he's been doing this entire time, because he's put himself into the Red Queen syndrome where he has to keep working as hard as he can to stay in the same plane. I think if he tries and be like, oh, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let other people take control, he's not going to know something that's going on, and there's going to be a plan to blindside him. I don't think Chris Lecompt wins this game. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think that the best move that Chris has is to just continue playing at that high level, continue to keep that alliance that he's built for himself and people. But ultimately, I think Chris Lecompt's fate in this season is he's going to be the prize to be won. He's going to be the person that puts his head on their mantle, will have that on their repertoire, and might be the deciding vote of this game. Their best move in the game will be, I got out Chris Lecompt. So
your money's worth out of that tonight.
That was a big moment, I think. Yeah. Waited.
I'm just in awe right now that we are in the tribal council before the merge, and Chris Lecompt's name doesn't even come up. No. That's amazing to me. That effectively the Sandra Diaz Twine of Survivor Maryland doesn't even get on the radar for tribal council.
Fucking good at the game,
yeah,
Chris Lecompt.
Really good.
Fucking incredible.
He was dead to rights 2 weeks ago. And
Yeah.
look at him now. It's complete turnaround. It's amazing to see.
Nicole Senti was able to guilt Nicole Senti basically into the game, and he's now capitalized on that. And the fact that he probably will not be the merge beat shows wonders to how great it is. Eventually, it's going to come back to bite him in the ass, but it shows how he almost won his first season, and he could absolutely MacGyver his way again.
Right. If I'm being honest, I think he ends in the same spot he ended in the second season. I think he goes deep, and he's cut right before the end.
Ooh.
Just in a heartbreak.
That's brutal.
Yeah. It may be a domino, maybe not a domino this time. We'll see. But maybe a couple dominoes this time at least. But I think he's playing in a position right now where he does kind of push pretty deep like there. I think Eric goes before he does, so he doesn't have to worry too much about the partner's twist. I don't necessarily see him winning the partner's twist, but I have a tough time seeing him go too early in the merge here.
Yeah, honestly, I think also his best move is maybe to reconnect with Evan and Micah. I think we know that Shannon, Holly, all those girls, they have other connections elsewhere. So maybe his best move is to, bro down with Eric, Evan, and Micah, and maybe form his own 4. And then maybe bring in some stragglers, like maybe even bring in Shubal or Alex G. And then that's maybe his best move, and then just work his way down.
Yeah, I think come the merge, he has a really high uphill battle to go, maybe placing in 7th or 8th out of everyone. But I feel like Chris is athletic, super passionate about the game, ripping his shirt in half. But I think he can win some immunities in there and maybe find an idol. I think he could be a safe for a few votes. And if he keeps his 4 strong, or like you're saying, goes with another group to create a strong alliance, I think he's good because he creates drama, but then he never gets any votes out of all the drama.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just got a text and distracted. Oh shoot. I don't know. Good comments all around. Let's move to I was gonna say, this is now a really stupid joke, and I really wrote it, but I was gonna say that you guys are gonna be ready for the shirt ripping challenge next week. All right, let's move on.
It's better than the waterboarding challenge.
Let's talk. We got 5 people left, and it's getting pretty late. So let's just run through Eric. What's Eric's? We've been talking about Eric. I think we've talked about his positioning, but again, the question: what should he do? And then, of course, how far do you think he will get? I mean, because Eric probably more than anybody has changed his game this season, I think, from last time.
He was a big villain his previous season, and he was playing super erratically. But yeah, I think he is playing a lot better this season. He's toned it down, but he's just isolated himself from the rest of the group. And right now, he has only 2 alliances, and they were with Chris Lecompt and Shannon. And yeah, he has Ashley maybe in a little bit, but him and Holly have a thing going on. Yeah, I don't see Eric getting past final 8, final 9.
I feel like Eric's best move at this point is to hope that there is a point that he can cut Lecompt. Just hope, because he is so tied to Chris in the eyes of everyone right now. He has no choice but to just ride that ship until he knows he has the numbers. Because Chris Lecompt will cut him in a second, but who knows when fucking Eric will do that either.
Yeah, I think the question is, would he do it? And I don't know if I can say that he will. I think he's tied to it till the end. I think it's what he's trying to set himself up for, and it's just not something that's going to get him much further.
Rachel, were you saying something?
I was going to say.
I didn't know your name was Rachel, too.
Wow, we're twins now. No, yeah, I think Eric's downfall is that Holly and Chris are both willing to cut Eric, but like you all said, we don't really know if Eric's willing to cut them. And yeah, Holly versus Eric and Feluke versus Victoria, I think Holly comes out on top of that. And yeah, when you have Chris and Eric together, if people think Chris has an idol and they want to target Chris, they would probably vote Eric, because you don't want to you have to split the vote, yeah.
And ultimately, between Eric and Shannon and Chris Holly, someone has to go if you want 2 rounds of immunity. So, and I just do not see Chris Lecompt and Holly losing that battle if it's against Eric and Shannon. I still think Chris Thomas and Victoria will win it out, don't get me wrong. But if they're the final 2, it's definitely Eric gone to appease Chris and Holly to get their immunity.
I think we could talk about that, but I think Eric and Shannon have a great shot at getting the final. They're getting the power. I think Holly may miss her shot and against Eric, and I think people are going to come after Chris Lecompt. So I think Chris Lecompt is going to go in that pair of Holly and Chris. I think Shannon has numbers on her side. She has the Soka trio. She has Feluke. I think they vote out Lecompt, and I think they'll be the last pair. So I think that's good for Eric. I mean, he maybe get some power, and but
okay. Speaking of Eric's partner, Shannon, we've talked a lot about Shannon. I think everybody has spoken highly of her tonight. What's our prediction for her?
God bless our queen.
yeah,
She's going all the way.
she's gonna win.
That's episode 1. She's going all the way.
This is, if anybody watches RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, Ben de la Creme just went home, so now everyone else has a better chance to shine, and Shannon is poised as the best now in the season. In my opinion, she has the most content. She talks. She has the most complex personality. Confessionals, where she talks about her views on everyone. She is easily the most set up going into the merge with the Soka trio, with Chris, with Eric, with Holly, with with Feluke. I think that there is a great chance that Shannon does not even get targeted at all. If the Soka trio ever gets targeted, I think that everyone else will just be like, "Oh, we love Shannon. We're not going to target her," and she'll flip on them. So I think that Shannon is the most well set up. She's either going to be the winner or she's going to be the threat that the final 2 know that they need to win to kick out if either of them want a shot.
Yep. She's my pick to win. She's playing amazing. I've said it this whole time. Like, she's amazing. Great.
Yeah, 100%. She's the best setup come the merge, I feel like, especially within the threesome that they have. Probably not going to be the target.
Okay. Let's go to Holly. Well, I think one of the bigger players of the pre-merge. Where do we think Holly's set up going forward?
If Shannon doesn't win, I think Holly wins. I think Holly is so, like I said this earlier, but Holly is so close to being like such an amazing Survivor player. She just needs to chill out right before a vote. Just like relax, trust your gut, and trust your alliance. I think she got a little, a little PTSD from when Victoria blindsided her. But I think she needs to trust her alliances, and she'll make it far. I think she needs to cut Shannon, maybe towards final 5. But yeah, I really like Holly's game.
Yeah, I think for Holly, it depends on the partner twist, on who they're targeting for that, and if her and Chris can get the partner twist, or if she makes it and then the other 2 gets it, but she's still in the game. I think for Holly, like, she has the relationships. I was sort of like iffy on her relationships the vote after the one before Senti went home with that vote, because right after that we see the fallout and everyone, and she's like screaming at everyone, and I thought like, oh, she might ruin her relationships with that by sort of like semi-threatening people about that. But it seems like her 4 really trust her. I think Chris T maybe, but I see Chris flipping on her and not wanting to like work with that foursome come the merge.
I think ultimately Holly is, if Chris and Holly do not get the partner twist, it will be Holly dying in the war of the 2, like the competing faction. I think Holly is I think Holly is early merge. And I think that she's going to be the swan song that gets she's going to be the death that brings the partner twist. It's the 2 partners left in the game their reward. She has had this instinct that she needs to get out Eric since I believe before that she was on a tribe with Eric. be trying to get him targeted as well. I don't remember. But at least she's been talking about it since she's been on a tribe with Eric. And I think that's going to come back to bite her in the end.
Yeah, I think she's in the second best position after Shannon. But I think the main difference between her and Shannon's position is that, they're both connected on both sides, but Shannon has a clear spot on the other side that if she needs to flip, she's there. Whereas if Holly flips to the other side, I feel like it's a little bit more uncertain, where she's not really in a solid position on that other side. She can flip for the sake of flipping, but I don't know if it really helps her in the long run or not. I think that's really where she's going to struggle. But I do think she's got, I think late merge is where she's going to end up.
Yeah, what Shannon has over Holly is the relationships are a little bit better with other people. I think Holly can get a little erratic, a little, I don't know, maybe not erratic, but like intense. I think Shannon's very calm when she talks to people. I mean, Holly's doing a great job. She's she needs to cut Shannon towards the end, but and then chill out.
I think this was a good tribal council for her because she did, going back to the whole Victoria blindsiding her thing, she did trust her alliance and she maybe trusted them too much. Whereas this time she had the doubts. She was trying to think through things complexly and just, can she go against Eric? Is this the right time to do that? Do I trust Eric? Is Eric going to try to make a move on me? Do I try to do it first? There's a lot more wheels turning there than I think there was last time. And I think that bodes well for her in the long run.
Yeah, she reminds me a little bit of Andrea in Karamoan. Just really great upside, but just a little paranoid.
Okay. Good takes there. Let's go with Chris Thomas.
It seems too easy to say. Yeah, it seems too easy to point out that he's in a tough spot. But I do honestly think that he can come back from this. I don't know how far he can come back from this, but I'm optimistic. I am buying Chris Thomas right now, proudly.
Yeah,
that was a good comp. Andrew from Caramoan. I'm seeing that in the chat. That was a nice take with the franticness. I like that.
Yeah. Chris Thomas, I think, is actually, I totally agree with you. I think he is set up really well to actually go pretty far. I think honestly, I think he's going to be the one to slay Chris Lecompt. I don't know how he's going to do it. If he's going to be one of the key swing votes in the late merge, middle merge. I think I really like him moving forward. I don't think he's winning, but I think he can make it to the end.
Yeah, I feel like Chris Thomas is set up well come the merge next week. If any of you have seen Peridium's videos on YouTube, he has one on the intentional Matt Singh, and obviously they didn't purposely lose challenges, but I feel like with Chris T on the outs of this foursome, he's going to want to go to whatever majority is on the other side probably come the merge, and I feel like he can fit into those whatever cracks there are really well. I feel like he's semi a free agent right now, and I think next week and in the next few weeks, he probably won't have a big target on his back. I feel like he can fly under the radar, especially with people like Fluke, Chris L, and stuff like that going to battle.
Yeah, I've been waiting. People have been tweeting Peridium guy to do Survivor Maryland videos. Haven't gotten there yet.
He has good content.
I know.
Yeah.
Todd, if you can get, I'm just looking at the chat, if we can get Peridium to watch Survivor Maryland, then I would love to have him as a recap for certainly. But yeah, that's the first step of that. I think he said he might have seen it. I don't know.
I guess before we jump off of Chris Thomas,
go. Sorry.
One of the big things I have on my notes of the whole season is we're going into the merge, and Lecompt versus Chris Thomas is still a thing.
Yeah,
and how blessed we are that is still a thing going into merge.
It's the Chris Noble, Dominic Abate.
Right. It's 3 years
it's not the
all of this out. Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. What'd you say?
I was gonna say 3 years ago you plotted out all of these, similarities to the season that just happened.
I know the Ghost Island, the idol that was on, gaining power and Survivor Maryland that Shubal has now. So that's good.
Yeah, I definitely see the Chris Noble and Dom things, and if only Ghost Island had a Sabrina, we could have been so lucky to have them. storylines. Anything with that
editing? You could.
Sorry, Bill, you're cutting out what?
Oh, dang it. If Ghost Island would only have had good editing like you had, maybe we would have.
That's fine. We have to be careful these days.
Back for that one.
Button issue, comparing CBS and whatever.
They can all burn because they just haven't watched.
Yeah, that's probably mostly true. All right. And last but not least, yeah, we talked a lot about him, so I just stuck him at the end. But Shubal, we talked about his chances, being dead in the water but not dead, chance to recover, whatever. I think we can lead into Shubal, and I think I've seen both, maybe you guys and the chats talk about him as a potential merge boot. Where do we think Shubal ends up? And then leading into that, who does get booted at the merge? What do we think actually happens? What really shakes out? Now's the time to predict that.
So Shubal, I think, is in deep trouble at the merge, and I don't know if he knows it quite yet, but I think he needs to play his idol. If he doesn't play his idol, I think he goes home at the merge. I think if he catches wind of the votes coming his way, he plays his idol. I think they maybe get out. I'm gonna say Evan. Evan goes at the merge.
Okay.
If not Shubal.
Rachel?
Yeah, I think very similar. I was gonna say Micah. I think if they want to split the votes, if they think even Shubal has an idol, whatever, they would probably put it on Evan or Micah. So I would put Micah, but that's sad. But yeah, if Shubal doesn't play the idol, I think you have to target the Soka trio going into the merge, either that or one of the four. But I think since it's a 7-5 split going into the merge, more people would probably be on board voting out one of the three over the Chris Holly alliance right now.
I think ultimately Shubal, his best play is going to be where Sabrina failed, which is after he pulls out an idol, whether it be real or fake, and he makes it through that vote, how does he change up his game and how does he improve on it? Because if he doesn't do anything to improve on it, he is next to go. 100%, they will just re-rally. They'll just do a redo of that tribal with one less person, and Shubal will be voted out unanimously unless he can make something happen. But I think he can. I still think that Shubal has a chance to make endgame. The problem is it's just how does he survive this vote? And it's going to be, if somebody's going to inspire a war, like a faction war between two sides, it's going to be Shubal.
Yeah.
And I think if he can somehow inspire a faction war to target each other, that will be his best shot at staying in the game.
I think I agree with everything you're saying there. Just I don't see a position where he doesn't play the idol next episode going into the merge. I think he's going to be target number one, and he's going to have to play it. And it really is going to come down to how he recovers from playing that idol. And I think it's set up to have him do that. He's kind of been like falling down a little bit and going back into how he played before. And I think everything that's happened in this episode and what will happen in the next episode might kind of shake him up a little bit to say, I need to change what I'm doing and switch gears and fix it up. As for who's going, I agree with you. I think he's going to try to fuel that faction war. And I almost think that somebody from the Furiosa 4 is going to be the one that takes the fall. Because I do think that Victoria and Chris Thomas will finally come together that we've been waiting for 9 episodes. She'll finally break the ice. And
the real showman.
Yeah, I think he'll flip back over to them, and I think the 4 that are left on Furiosa will be the ones left over at that point. If I had to say a name, I'll throw Ashley out there at this point.
I would like to petition that we call them the Furiosa.
I like that.
Missed opportunity there. I'll be sure to hashtag that like Sabrina.
Yeah.
There's also the 4 bitten from the secret scenes, so we've got all the bad alliance names with 4. All right. The only other, I think we've had a lot of really good conversation. People in the chat were saying great panel, and I totally agree. I'll take a couple questions in a second just to wrap up, but hashtag Schulte. I forgot about Schulte from last week's recap for anybody who watched. So your winner picks. We've talked about Shannon. If your winner pick is Shannon, then give the other person that you're rooting for. And if you have another winner pick, then say your winner pick. So we'll start with Bailey.
I think I have to say that my winner pick is Shannon. I have to say it. She's playing such a good game. It's gonna be very hard to top. If I had to say my final three, I think it's gonna be Shannon, not Victoria, Shannon, Feluke, and Ashley in the final three. I think that's my final three personally.
Rachel?
Yeah, Shannon as well. I think from a game standpoint, it'd be cool to see Chris Lecompt go all the way. But yeah, similar, I think. Final three, Shannon, Feluke, and then I think Evan could go in there. Final two, Shannon and Evan.
Okay. All right. I like these final predictions too. I meant to ask that, so I'm glad you guys are doing that on your own.
You're welcome. I'll host next week if you want.
That's right. Go for it.
There's no episode, so I'll host something.
That's true. If anybody wants to host next week, feel free. I will not stop.
I was sitting in an Airbnb in Boston watching the premiere episode of this, and after we finished it, I turned to Will from America, and I flat out told him Shannon is winning this season, and I stand by that to this day. The final three-wise, I think Shannon, I think Feluke, and I do actually think Chris Lecompt is going to be right there at the end, just cut down at the end, just tragically, once again.
I think, Shannon's winning. I think it's going to be a final three.
I might as well not even show the rest of the season. Good Lord.
Yeah, I think Shannon's going to win. But the only person I can see challenging her is Holly, and I think the final three is going to be Holly, Shannon, and Feluke. And I think, they cut Holly at 3.
I hope any of our predictions win because it'll be an entertaining. No.
We're all winners if Shannon wins.
Yes.
But mostly Shannon. She's mostly the winner if she wins.
Watch as in 2 weeks from now, Shannon just gets such a spike in negative content.
We're all curious why Austin's asking us back on the podcast.
Game I've ever seen.
It just gets dumped on Roger from Amazon.
I just saw somebody post saying that I haven't there's nobody else to root for besides whatever. I'm like, man, this sucks. Then I don't know what to tell you if that's.
No, I think this is a great season. I just think Shannon is playing such an awesome game. If Shannon goes early merge, then this game is wide open for Chris Lecompt, for Holly, even throw in Micah in there. I don't know. It's an awesome season so far. The pre-merge was really great.
I think we all trust that if Shannon does go, that you have a way to pull the edit back and give us something else there to all come on here and unanimously pick as the winner pick.
No, I think it's been pretty even. Honestly, I feel like the three kind of powers of this season have been Shannon, Holly, and Shubal. Those are the three that are kind of been running the show pre-merge. So it's interesting to see where those three end up in the merge.
I think that there was a funny comment on Jack's wiki page where someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop watching this season because my favorites Ryan, Rachel, Rebecca, Brandon, Michelle, and now all I have is Senti left to root for." And I'm like, "We need better favorites, hon."
Yeah, I mean,
I think the great thing.
So Boot was tragic, and I love Sabrina, and I would have loved to see her make the merge. But if you look at the whole pre-merge, I mean, it's hard to draft up that many better scenarios, both in terms of losing characters, whatever, but also interesting ways. I think in the next 2 weeks, if you have time, and I'm not saying anyone has to do this, but I would rewatch that pre-merge and even the premiere, and there's so much even just in storylines in the pre-merge that are pretty cool throughout. But
the only person to put in the merge that didn't make the merge is Siona. Literally only Siona, I think, is the tragic loss of this season. And all-star seasons are notorious for cutting the big players and the mediocre players making it through. So the fact that this season has been so balls to the wall crazy that we have all of these giant threats left in the game is incredible. And it shows how great of a season it is and how great these players are.
No, yeah, I agree. It could definitely have been like Game Changers 2.0, and like everyone gives such like funny confessionals. Like Evan's confessional's funny, Ashley's funny, like Feluke's super funny. So it's like all these people are giving such good content that like even if they aren't in the main action or going to tribal council every week, like we still get to see them, and they're good to watch on our Monday nights.
I think the brilliance of how you edited the season so far is you have villains in the season, and I even find myself rooting for the villains in addition to the heroes. Yeah, I want to see them do well because they're just entertaining to watch. So just all around, it's ideal. It's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that, one of the things like coming into the season, what everyone's question was, is this going to be an all-stars / game changers, or is this going to be heroes versus villains / second chances? And it's second chances, heroes versus villains.
Absolutely.
Level of gameplay, level of entertainment. I mean, they're all playing so hard out there. You can definitely tell through the edit. Every single one of them is playing. And it's going to be exciting merge. I can already tell.
All I know is CBS needs to offer you a goddamn job.
Second that.
Direction. They have lost it, and you are bringing it back. And I love you for it.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on just for that because, you know, I had a lot of, as I said, I think earlier, I had a lot of anxiety going into tonight's episode, and I get anxiety before all the stat boots that I know people will, you know, you have a good sense of what people will be happy and mad about. But
this is CBS Survivor doesn't get right that I feel like you get right is they have been notorious for giving you can have like really heartbreaking boots, but if you edit them well, then it's okay because you know that they played a great game and they tried their hardest. CBS right now edits like 5 characters and everyone else is just filler.
Right. I think they do something. Like I think Stephanie Johnson and whatever. Like you get people who are given that kind of edit in the pre-merge.
Was one of those 5 characters.
Yeah.
Like I think ultimately you give such diverse 3D edits to these characters that ultimately, like, when they get booted, we feel sad, but we feel like we knew them as a character, and it's okay to see them go. Whereas, like, I don't think CBS does that as well as you do. So, and I think you should be commended for that.
Yeah. All we need is on the next final words is Jeff Probst like hugging the person going out. Yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it helps that I have so much time to work with the content and can you know, just put whatever I want in. And I was giving a shout out to some of my crew. I mean, I had a very limited. I was working with like 2 to 3 people max at these challenges and stuff, and I was just commending them because so many little moments I think we've managed to get on film into this season, which we did a pretty good job as every season went, but I mean, this season especially, I feel like all the moments I wanted for the most part were there. Even like, you know, Feluke and Ashley last week at the challenge, that little moment, you've got the Shubal. It would be so easy for crew to sit back and chat to each other instead of filming the Shubal back and forth in and out of the challenge. And I'm very thankful for that. But I'm glad you guys feel this way, and it makes me feel better. And I hope that people watching, I mean, look, if you can't find at least 4 people to root for in this 12, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I think that's a low number to me, but if you can't find a pocket of at least 3 or 4 people that you are interested in and invested in, then I apologize. But yeah, I don't know. And maybe those are the people who also fast forward through the episodes and get mad. Maybe they're the same group of people. But what
you have. I will say you've created characters, and you have done as much as you can with Micah, and I'm very proud of you for that.
I feel like if you I don't think he's the whole scene of starting the Lecompt train rolling in episode 6. Everyone I think has had a moment in this.
I agree.
I don't think everyone's I mean, Alex G was pretty quiet there, confessional wise, but I think everybody, even he had the whole finger storyline. So
yeah.
All right, I'm just going to go and see if there are any questions. If you have one, let me know.
So one thing I would point out about the episode that I did enjoy, dropping in the heartbreaking music at the end of that tribal council.
Oh,
it caught me way off guard. I was like emotional at that point. It was I was not expecting that. Kudos for throwing that in.
I got a little chills when I put that in there
Yeah.
the first time. It felt right.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to comment on. It's not as heartfelt, but it was weird because I was listening to the whole, like, I can't believe I didn't remember to bring this up. The Shubal, like, oh, this is not who I am. I feel so bad. And you have like some horror music. Friday the 13th, like it was like, I'm almost like, am I supposed to feel bad for him, or am I supposed to like be like, you caused this yourself, you are your own horror and demise, down to hell you go. Like, it was such a weird track to put in, but it made it so much better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can feel both ways about it. Somebody, I remember after episode 5 when the Michelle thing happened, someone was like, oh, I'm so mad because I know I'm supposed to be rooting for Shubal, but I feel like he's such an asshole or a villain or whatever. And I was like, I don't know, you can feel whatever you want about Shubal. I think that's and with most people, I think you can go either way with it. But I think it definitely, a lot of it was brought about on himself, but it was still heartfelt too. But the music certainly changes your feel on a lot of things. I mean, I always say I don't try to manipulate things, but certainly if I feel a certain way about a story, the music can definitely reflect that. If I didn't care about Sabrina, she wouldn't have gotten that music. So,
and I think the scene at the end, or her goodbye message or whatnot, really humanized the whole series, because it really brought back to the point that you're friends with these people too. Like, you're not just Jeff Probst disconnected from everything. Like, you go to school with these people. There's more to it there, and I think that really brought it back, and I thought that was really, really good.
Like, probably a lot of the reason that Sabrina played was because she knew it was important to you. And the fact that you put that scene in there to just kind of give us that moment and to just show how much you both meant to each other was really fucking precious. And
I was really glad to be able to include that in there, and I do really love Sabrina. Like, I've been talking to her, and she's just awesome. Like, she's just crushing it right now with like her PhD, doctorate, I don't know what, master's, something, whatever. Wow. She's just writing theses. She's brilliant, and I'm really excited to. I should have her on at some point soon. That's the plan. I was putting in the chat of some sort of exit interview or something, but no, it really, really is cool, and it is true for everybody. Actually, I had a scene like that with Senti too, but especially for Sabrina, I felt like, I felt like, it was sad for her right in that moment, and yet I think that a lot of her story, like, I don't think that it was totally just her story was cut off. I think we were able to see a lot of her realize that potential that I always knew she had as soon as I saw her play the first time, and I think even just, culminating in last week's move, I think that stands on its own. There's nothing to take away from her. So I wanted her to make sure she felt that. And that was also me talking, giving the viewer perspective, I think, too, is that's how I felt. But
all the way, she's an amazing player, and she played a kick-ass game, and she just got out because of a little bit of luck. She couldn't. The only thing you can't control is other people, and that's where she lost.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think she's on Twitter for the questions. What is there was a question. Oh, somebody asked me, I know what why I thought Chris T was going home over Sabrina, and I really thought it was because I thought Sabrina was going to end up voting for him, and he wasn't going to be one to make that move. So it actually surprised me that he did kind of succumb to that roll with the majority thing. And I think the last 2 weeks we've seen Chris Thomas kind of roll with that, and even last week he was like, I really want to vote for Lecompt, but I can't.
Yeah.
But
so
that was
they talk about, did like the Furiosa, did they talk about, and like, if it were tied, who was going to go home out of the two of them?
I think Holly said it in one of the scenes with the group that they were going to vote for Sabrina, and they felt with the idol that they would take the chance and split up Shubal and Sabrina.
Okay.
I don't know if there are any other pressing questions. It's 11:30, and I really should probably
stay with us.
You're not going to keep it till your birthday? Have the clock roll over?
Oh, go until my birthday? Yeah, that's true. My
2.5 hours long?
No,
your birthday was a couple weeks ago, right? I saw it on Reddit.
No, it's been a 2-week birthday, actually. Yeah. Too bad we weren't here to talk about that with Will from America tonight. Well, do any of you guys have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
Great season. Thank you for having us on here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for spending hours and hours of your life putting this together.
It's worth it, though. It's nice to see the reaction.
That I have a bae and his name is Jesus.
It's hard to say it any better.
Why not the episode title?
I did not. I thought Chief Lucas. I thought the "Why You Always Lying" wasn't good. It was like a 3-year-old reference, but it was still really well. We still
Look, we all read that title. We all sang that song in our head as we clicked the link to watch the episode.
right.
I think it was.
I hope it was at least validating for it to actually turn out like that. I don't know, but I guess it was.
I thought it was.
If there's a reason I want Feluke back in the game, is it's just for having like 6 possible episode quotes each episode. Like, she is amazing and beautiful, and I'm so glad you brought her back for this twist.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it certainly. I like I said, I think the swap and that twist kind of just like injected life into the season, and the whole cast I think stepped up their game, and I think having both, it was nice to me, and then the reason people talk about, I wish it had been from the beginning, and sure, it would have been nice to have Fluke from the beginning, but I think that she fit in kind of as a piece of the puzzle here, rather than being like the whole story like Lecompt was, and ups everybody else's game where everybody else is at this level and firing on all cylinders. So, well, I'm gonna wrap up and go to bed before I go on rambling tangents more. But thank you to you guys. Thank you to everybody in the chat as always. I will see you guys in 2 weeks, and I'll probably I'll at least put. I said I would put the bonus secret scenes from episodes 7 and 8 out during the next week or so. So I'll have stuff for that. Be on the lookout at some point. And get excited for the merge double episode. There is going to be a ton to talk about next week. I almost would consider just doing them separately because they each could easily be standalones, but we'll just combine them, have a lot of fun. I'll have to figure out if I'm going to do the recap late that night or the next day. We'll figure it out. But once again, thank you to you four. You guys crushed it and did a really good job, and it was a lot of fun talking to all of you. So, thanks to everyone, and good night.
Night. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.